Hello, welcome to Local Anaesthetic Podcast, your regular injection of mind-numbing local news. This is episode 378 now, the first Local Anaesthetic episode of 2023, so I guess I should do due diligence and wish everybody a happy new year, and I hope you all had a good festive break. And I have to say, Rob, you know, in this sort of break, the stories have been coming. They've just, you know, all I have in my inbox at the moment are just top drawer classic stories because I've been able to pick out the best of the bunch. But I understand, Rob, we have some news from our listeners who've been busy.
Yes, we do. I mean, first of all, Happy New Year, listeners. Let's hope for a better year than last year and the year before that and the year before that.
Fat chance, Rob.
Yeah, I'm not hopeful.
I told you a while ago that nothing gets better from here on in. So therefore, every year will be worse than the last. You need to understand that.
Alex, I heard two stats that I'm going to repeat, that one of which apparently is that millennials, as they age, apparently are becoming more right-wing. If anything, they're becoming more left-wing. So that fills me with some degree of hope. And also, apparently, there's a changing attitude that people prefer their energy providers to provide energy that's eco-friendly. So apparently, attitudes towards fossil fuel are finally changing. You know, arguably after the damage has already been done. But you know. That's something.
Is that all you've got? Is that all you've got? There's some tenuous research that people are becoming a bit more left wing, which might not necessarily be a good thing, because if they're depending on how left they are, we might end up in some communist hellscape, or
yep.
And that people are using green energy suppliers.
Well, also the biggest piece of news is that Charlie Austin has returned to Swindon Town. I mean that'll matter to probably none of our listeners, but it's a big thing for us. The King has returned.
Anyway, good news nonetheless.
There is news. Our listeners have not taken a break over Christmas and have just, I mean, it's quite exceptional what's been coming in. First of all, I'm going to mention, I think this all, no. So first of all, let's mention the news from Khyber. So Khyber has been in contact about three separate things. The first of which was a very funny comment. He's found a story from The Independent. I'm not going to read the story itself, but he says, "Is it just me, or does Kenny West, which by the way is a great name for Kanye, can we please refer to him as Kenny West going forward? Although it does sound like the illegitimate child of Fred West, unfortunately. But let's move past that. So Kenny West sound more and more like John Mooner by the day, and the headline is." Kanye West calls Elon Musk a half-Chinese clone engineered like Obama.
That's a great episode title. We don't need to say much about that. It's a wonderful turn of phrase. Yes,
it is. Yeah, it's very evocative. He's also been in contact about. Do you remember the journalist we featured from the So Live, Mr. David Bradshaw?
Yes. Oh, the one that we were going to tweet because we liked the cut of his jib.
Yes, I did tweet him. He is now following us. He did respond to the tweet and say that he recently discovered Twix ice cream. So he is now following us on Twitter.
Sorry, what's his recent discovery of Twix ice cream got to do with anything?
Well, obviously he had a Twix obsession, or Twix. What's the word? Not a habit, I suppose. Hate craving. What addiction? That's what. Completely forgot that word. Yeah, so you know, and the whole article was that he decided to continue with his Twix addiction. Khyber's obviously been onto his Twitter, as have I. And Khyber says, "Rob, do you remember the notorious Twix fiend Dave Bradshaw? Turns out he's quite an interesting fella with more than one string to his bow. And I've been following this because apparently he's a massive wrestling fan.
Right. As in he wrestles, or he likes watching wrestling."
He's a wrestling commentator, Alex. He comments on semi-professional wrestling.
I just spat my water over my keyboard. Excuse me.
Okay. I hope that's okay. So Khyber has sent a flyer from one of the matches that's taking place at the. I mean, it's so Partridge. It's taking place at the Stratford Methodist Church in Stratford-upon-Avon. Excuse me. And it's for the, I'm guessing the organisation is for the PEW, and the event is called Four Circle. And the commentary team is Dave Bradshaw and someone by the name of Chocolate Thunder.
So Dave Bradshaw, sorry, that's the co-commentator, Chocolate Thunder, is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So Dave Bradshaw enjoys watching, well, I was going to say muscly men, but British wrestlers very rarely are that, but enjoys watching sort of grown men wearing very tight lycra wrestling each other in a ring, and alongside his buddy, Chocolate Thunder.
Correct. Yes.
Right. Do I need to say anything else? Okay.
I don't think you need to dwell in that or delve into that any further. Just take it as read. The third piece of news, and this is going to upset a lot of people, but Kyber's made us aware that. Do you remember some years ago Matt Hancock released an app?
Yes, I loved that story. Matt Hancock's ill-fated. Oh God, Matt Hancock is becoming a living embodiment of Alan Partridge, by the way. But never mind.
Yes, that's true. Unfortunately, I'm sad to bring you the news that the app has closed down.
This was an app where you could get to know him, wasn't it, as your MP? And of course, because he's not an MP anymore, he is now a celebrity.
Correct. Yeah, supposedly. So the app apparently had 243,000 people sign up to it. Although, as according to the Wall Street Journal, they reported that not all the users were who they appeared to be, as there were some people impersonating politicians such as Ed Balls, Donald Trump, and Liz Truss.
I'm surprised that the Wall Street Journal reported on the Matt Hancock app.
Yeah, I know. No? Alex. This is utterly bizarre. Hancock didn't unfortunately confirm the news, and has urged his followers to follow him on Twitter. On TikTok, even on TikTok instead, because apparently Matt Hancock is now on Twitter and has a following of 156,000 people on TikTok. Yes.
Yeah, it's twerking videos, I assume.
I would think so, yeah.
You got to love our listeners, because we're talking about genuinely good research skills here. It's like we've got our own team of researchers, Rob.
Yes, absolutely, Alex. And I've got one more piece of news, which I've already mentioned to you, but I haven't said it on the podcast yet. So a friend of mine who listens to the podcast, I'm not going to give away her identity, and it will become clear why. During a conversation, we were about to conclude, and she just casually mentioned that an in-law of hers seems to think they know the identity of the Gimp Man of Somerset. And and this isn't the good one, Alex. This isn't the Gimp Man of Essex. This is the one who's been.
This is the bad Gimp.
This is the bad Gimp. Yeah, who's been approaching people in the street at night. And she said she's going to do some investigation and see what else she can find. So this is hot news, Alex.
The only thing I would say is as much as I appreciate it, and it would be extraordinary for us to get the exclusive on that local anesthetic podcast, LAPodcast.net, she should really be going to the police first, not LA Podcast. That's all I'd say.
I would agree with
we
that.
are not yet, as far as I'm aware, we're not yet the fourth emergency service, are we? What is it?
No.
Fire, ambulance, police. What is it, the one they call the fourth emergency service? Isn't it lifeguards? Fuck that.
Coastguard, yeah, Coastguard.
Explain to me about the Coastguard, Rob, right? Because my parents live near the coast.
Yeah.
And so when I go and visit them, I spend a lot of time on the coast. And even in summer, there are huge stretches where none of it's being monitored. I just feel like, I don't know how much, I don't feel like the Coast Guard do as much, it doesn't, I don't know. Rob's being attacked by his cat.
Yeah, by a cat.
Literally
just briefly
attacked.
I mean, Alex, I'm not going to slag off the Coast Guard. It's one of these things that, I mean, I've never been in need of the Coast Guard because I very rarely venture into the great unknown, i.e. the ocean, aboard a boat that isn't seaworthy. Where am I going?
Isn't the great unknown space and the cosmos? Listen, yeah, Rob, maybe I've got an idea for a new conservative policy. Disband the Coast Guard. Save a bit of money. There you go. What do we need them for? There you go. Just cut them. There you go. No Coastguard. Yeah, if you want to go in the sea, you're responsible. It's about personal responsibility, Rob, something you know nothing about. Rob, we are already 12 minutes into this podcast. We need to get on with it.
Let's crack on.
God. For the first time ever on LAPodcast, Rob, I am going to do a story. Actually, before I say that, I just want to, very quickly to people who are listening, maybe some new listeners in the new year, just to let you know that Rob and I also have a sister episode to this, a companion podcast called LAPodcast and Extra Jab, which is more stories. It's basically more LA podcasts. It's a slightly different format. And they're all on a website called Patreon, patreon.com/LAPodcast Extra. That's right, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah.
And basically, it's a subscriber thing. So you actually become a member of this podcast and you get access to all of those episodes already there. And we're well over 35, or I don't know how many episodes we are now. We're well into how many episodes? Well over 35, I thought, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what we're on now. I can't even remember myself. But yeah, we're fast approaching 40.
So it's only £1. It's only £1 a month. That's what you're signing up to, £1 a month plus VAT, whatever that is. That's a Patreon thing. So it'd be like £1.20 or whatever it is. And you will get access to all of those episodes, which basically you can't get them anywhere else. And all the new episodes that are released every month will just drop in. You'll get an email and you'll get a private link to access them. And we really enjoy doing them, and we would highly recommend you signing up. And it did used to be £2 a month, but we cut the price down to £1 a month because we just wanted to recognise that people were, all of us, struggling with bills at the moment. But Rob, for the first time ever on LA Podcast, I believe so. You correct me if I'm wrong. I'm doing a story from Which magazine.
Yeah, I think that might be the first time, actually. Yeah, I think you could be right.
For our international listeners, Which is a UK publication which kind of covers everything to do with consumer rights. It's a valuable publication. And I'm going to do a story now, Rob, looking back on 2022. And the headline is Revealed, the 5 strangest scams of 2022. And Rob, you and I love a good scam story. And this does a very good summary of the best/worst of 2022. So number 1, Rob, energy-saving gadgets. In early 2022, consumers were tantalised by claims an energy-saving device could cut their electricity bills by, in quotes, up to 90%. The product was Voltex, previously known as Motex. When Which investigated Motex, plus 4 other similar energy-saving devices for sale on Amazon and eBay, none passed their safety tests. In fact, they were so poorly made, they're at risk of causing fires or electric shocks. And Motex has since been the subject of a national product recall. So that didn't go very well. Right.
Lovely.
Number 2, fake Which CEO. Scammers trying to trick canny Which employees tried posing as their chief executive.
Is it just me, or is that very niche? So that they are purely trying to target Which employees?
In January, members of the Which social media team with publicly available email addresses received a missive from Annabelle Holt saying, Hope you don't have so much on your plate. I have a task for you. Reply my mail so I can concise you all about it. So basically it was undermined by poor spelling and grammar. It was immediately identified as a scam, not least because it originated from a non-Which email address. Right, look, this is where these get good now. Number 3, offshore lover. These are the ones we love, Rob. When Becky Holmes' new partner, offshore oil rig worker Zeltinis, said he needed £3,000 to come and visit her in person for the first time, they'd only ever met online, Rob, she wasn't content to sit at home waiting. She boarded a boat, then a helicopter, and documented the journey by sending selfies to Zeltinis, who panicked and was rather anxious to get the cash. So let's just get this straight.
Alex, I need to stop you there. I know this story because this woman is an online... She does this routinely.
Right, to explain?
So she responds to people's requests. And
yes.
She's made a habit of doing this, and then basically has quite gathered... I remember following this on her Twitter feed, because not only she's dated like people claim to be famous celebrities and basically just calls their bluff.
She calls their bluff, right? So she's like, right, I'm getting... That's brilliant, isn't it? I'm coming over to the oil rig. Okay.
It was superb. And there's a whole trail of all of her various exploits trying to call out these scammers in it, and I would encourage you to follow her.
Right. Number 4, Gaz promises. Most of us have heard of the Nigerian Prince email scam. Rob, and you and I were covering that right at the crest of the wave there. Well, but what about the Russian oligarch version? In June 2022, many people received an email from Mr. Viktor Zubkov, chairman of the board for Russian state energy giant Gazprom. In the email, he complains of current economic sanctions melted on Russians as a consequence of its war on Ukraine, which are preventing the transfer of Gazprom profits. The good news is that you, the recipient of the email, can help Rob by allowing your personal bank account to receive $160 million to escape confiscation by the US government and the EU. Anyone who did take up the offer was persuaded to pay an upfront fee and or provide their bank details, with the scammer then disappearing. And number 5 is Elon Musk's Bitcoin giveaway, which I don't want to talk about because I don't want to give any more. We've already talked about Elon Musk once. Don't want to talk about him again. Right, Rob. It's 2023.
Yep.
After looking back at some scams for 2022, let's start off 2023 with a local anaesthetic classic story.
Lovely.
The kind of story, Rob, that we would have covered maybe in the first year of recording. This is a local news story, I believe, from a new paper, the Salisbury Journal, correct me if I'm wrong, .co.uk. Never heard of it before.
No, that's new to me.
It's by Georgia Revel, who is their community reporter. It is quite brilliant. Headline, man stuck in footwell of car. Thanks Lifesaving dog. You're going to love it.
It's Lifesaving dog that really... okay. Yeah, I'm not going to ask any questions. Let's get into it.
An elderly man has thanked the dog that, in quotes, saved his life after an accident left him stuck in the footwell of his car, Rob. In the footwell of his car for nearly 24 hours.
Sorry. I'm assuming he hadn't been involved in some sort of, horrendous car accident that had meant that, he'd been confined to the footwell. I'm assuming I don't know, because I'm thinking that if that had happened, the police would have been there probably a lot quicker. But Alex, what had happened and how did the dog save him?
Well, 94-year-old Morris Cohen from Ringwood found himself in difficulty when his walking stick snapped as he climbed into his car and he fell into the footwell. So imagine that, Rob. You're getting into the car and your walking stick snaps in half and you just tumble into the footwell. I keep thinking, how deep is this footwell? I mean, I feel like you would have had to have made an effort to get into a fetal position and curl up in there. I'm not blaming him, but I'm just saying it's odd.
I think the problem is, Alex, I mean, he's obviously an elderly man, so there's a good chance he may have broken something as a result of the fall.
Yeah, he is old. I mean, he's 94.
He lives in a really isolated community. Sure, he's 94. So, but then unless he lives in a really isolated community, or his neighbours are just cunts.
You've never been to Ringwood, Rob. You've never been to Ringwood, Rob. But also, look, these places are all Tory heartlands, Rob. It's everybody's responsible for themselves. I keep trying to talk to you about personal responsibility, Rob. You are responsible for your walking stick and checking that it's in good order. And if it snaps and you fall into the footwell of your car, why should somebody else be expected to get you help, Rob? There's no such thing, Rob, as society or community or love thy neighbour. Do you understand that?
Yeah, and if any, I mean, Alex, I'll be honest, if I saw him whilst walking past, I would have thought, well, that's one less hospital bed that's been taken up.
Exactly. And you take a picture and you put it on Twitter. Now, Morris describes how he hit the floor of the car and quickly found himself wedged underneath the clutch and brakes, leaving him stuck and unable to get out.
Sorry,
this man must be wafer thin.
How is he wedged?
Don't blame him, Rob.
I don't understand, Alex. How small is this man? Is he a ball?
Should have had if this wouldn't have happened. This wouldn't have happened if he'd had an automatic. The car had been parked in his garage with Morris's family away at the time when the incident went unnoticed. So to be fair, it's parked in his garage. The family are away. He's stuck in the footwell of the car, Rob, wedged under the clutch and brakes. He said, "I was calling for help, but no one could hear me, even though the garage door was up. I was stuck in the car overnight. It was getting colder and colder." Rob, do you know what he could have done with? A Twix. I
thought you were about to say a bottle, maybe.
He must have pissed himself in there.
Yeah. Oh, this poor guy. But again, maybe that's how the dog found him.
How could he not unwedge himself, though? I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like 94 or not in that moment, adrenaline would take over, and wouldn't you find some, I don't know, we should, we're becoming very judgmental here. It's wrong. I mean, God forbid this was ever happen to us. He says it was horrible. It was impossible to get out. I was really lucky because hypothermia had already set in. I don't know.
Sorry, what?
I think he's saying he's like
hypothermia.
I think it's because he's saying I was found. Otherwise, I would have died. It was Roger's neighbour. It was Roger. But it was Roger, a neighbour's jackapoo, who became Morris's unexpected hero. Nearly 24 hours after Morris's fall, the dog had found its way into the garage and alerted his owner to Morris through persistent sniffing. Morris said it was about 10 a.m. the following morning. The dog from over the road came sniffing around. I think he could hear me shouting. After Roger refused to leave Morris's side, his owner, Francis Wall, came over the road to see what he had found. It was then that Francis spotted a struggling and freezing cold Morris tucked away in the footwell.
Oh.
Francis said, I went over to get Roger and I could just see Morris's feet. Francis then described how her brother John tried to free Morris from the footwell but had no luck. So, Rob, her and her brother tried to free this man from the footwell and couldn't do it. That's how wedged in he was.
I'm just trying to think of our car. I mean, our car's, like yourself, Alex, our car is an automatic, but I'm just thinking, I don't understand how would you get entangled around the fucking pedals?
Could you try it for us? Could you try it for us later, Rob? See if you can squeeze yourself into the footwell underneath the pedals and see what happens.
And just lie there for 24 hours in the car park.
A journalist should do that. A 999 call later, and the help of 3 firemen, Morris was released and taken to Bournemouth Hospital. Morris said, I owe my life to that dog. They said if I would have been there for a few more hours, I would have been a goner. I was extremely lucky. On Friday, and after 10 days in hospital, Morris returned home to his wife Linda. He's already gifted Roger a Christmas stocking full of dog treats, but said he'll never be able to do enough to show his thanks. There are 2 comments, Rob.
Okay.
Let me just do that again, sorry, because of bloody content blockers. There are 2 comments, Rob. Mark, 1967, says, a story with a happy ending. This is what I love about dogs. They're totally loyal and everything they give is given unconditionally. I know for a fact that our dog would never leave our side, even under the worst circumstances. Sometimes I smear... Okay, I'm not reading that. Hills D says, you are spot on. Well-behaved and loving dogs are wonderful. And I have to say, Rob, I think I'm going to visit, I believe, the Salisbury Journal more often. And while I hand over to you, Rob, I just want to say that you will have heard of Longleat Safari Park. Doesn't Alan Partridge mention that in one of the episodes, Longleat Safari Park? I'm sure he talks about taking Jill there.
Yes, I think he does.
Wrong.
I think you're right. There is a mention of it. Yeah. Why are you mentioning Longleat Safari Park, Alex?
I'm mentioning it because I saw a story in the sidebar of the Salisbury Journal by Benjamin Passella. And I just, if you had been to Longleat Safari Park on New Year's Day, Rob, I want you to imagine you've taken the family out there for a lovely day out. Longleat Safari Park, they've got everything there. It's, makes Eagle Heights look like Eagle Heights. But headline, lioness killed by another lion at Longleat Safari Park on New Year's Day. One of the lionesses at Longleat sadly was killed by another lion. It happened incredibly quickly, with the lioness dying almost instantly. Professional keepers were immediately on the scene. Good news is there was no risk of death, but I guess would probably be upsetting and traumatic for children and adults alike.
Yeah, I mean, I will pay for it. Just a very last point on that. I do believe, and I could be wrong here, that Longleat was home to the short-lived Crinkly Bottom theme park, which included Blobbyland. Completely true.
Yes, presumably that was another ill-fated venture by Noel Edmonds, was it?
Alex, I think that's unfair. I mean, all Noel Edmonds' endeavours come out smelling of roses.
Okay, Rob. After that brilliant classic local anaesthetic news story, no pressure, What have you got for us?
So I know this is highly unusual, but I'm going to do a story from a listener. And the reason being is that this is a Christmas story. And as I thought, we are recording slightly ahead of time. We are still technically in the 12 days of Christmas. I thought that would be okay. So this is from Face the Strange because it's just a great story.
We will always, and as author, Rob, we will always cover stories from Face the Strange. And Face the Strange, by the way, if you're not on the Patreon yet, get on there because you are a man that will enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do we know Face the Strange's real name? And even if we do, obviously we wouldn't reveal it. But,
nope. His identity has continued to elude us. I've made wild speculations to him directly, but so far nothing. So this is from the Cornwall Live. It's from the 23rd of December last year by Oliver Vergnaut, who is the senior reporter. Good to know. And the headline is Drunk Santas in Tank Cause Chaos in Cornish Village of Angarach.
Sorry, a tank as in a military tank?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if this is a Cornish expression, but I've never heard it before. There was hell up. Ever heard that expression? Hell up? As in hell up.
For any of our sort of international listeners, Cornwall is a kind of, it is technically part of the United Kingdom, but they would like to form their own breakaway state and are really like their own land. They're a bit strange.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So there was hell up in a small Cornish
famous
village.
for pasties, of course.
Of course. And
nice I haven't had a Cornish pasty in a very long time, and I really would, yeah. Remember Ginsters? When I was at university, I used to kind of buy those a lot.
I also think the Ginsters, it's kind of because it's a recognised name, it's like, yeah, you're getting a Ginsters, but there are better pasties out there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that anybody listening to this from Cornwall would be aghast at me even conflating Ginsters and Cornwall.
Exactly.
But I have, and I can't take it back.
Yep. So there was hell up in a small Cornish town where a group of Santas tried to drive a tank through and got stuck, damaging a car and blocked access to the famously decorated streets.
So this was in Cornwall, not in some... This is insane.
Yes.
Where did they get the tank from?
Well, we'll come on to that. So residents and festive revellers in Angarach were left fuming when a group of military reenactors dressed as Santa Claus drove into the village outside Hale. So I wasn't saying Hale, by the way, the place is called Hale, just to make that clear. In a vintage armoured personnel carrier, but came a crop when the metal beast, complete with tank tracks, proved too wide for the roads.
It's like something that lasts of the summer wine.
Yeah, it is, but very next level. So some punters have filmed the rather unusual yet comical scenes which show the Santas, some of them sealing well into their festive drinks, struggling to move their armoured vehicle and being told to try and drive it through the narrow streets, which is famous for its Christmas lights. This is the kind of thing that can only happen in Britain. This is a classic farce, Rob, isn't it? It's a sitcom episode. Yeah. Some of the historic reenactors' enthusiasts can be heard slurring their words and gesticulating rather wildly as they struggle to move the tank about last night. Now, I love the fact that now children will have seen this, Rob. Children will have seen this, and it will have done a couple of things. Number one, it will have shattered, Rob, absolutely shattered their belief in Santa Claus, because instead of there being one, because we all know there's only one, there were multiple of them. Two, what the hell is Santa Claus doing driving a tank? He's meant to be peaceful, peace-loving, pacifist, is my understanding. And then number three, can't think of number three, but just seeing tanks in the street, Rob, never a good sight. You don't want to see that. No. Although I think in Cornwall it's quite a common sight because they've been trying to claim independence for many years now. Now, so one traffic warden could be heard telling them off and insisting they can't go any further. You cannot come in here with your tank. There are cars parked here. Nanny state, Rob. Yeah, exactly, Alex. Yeah, these parking warnings, Alex, they're a menace themselves. One of the Santas, not the driver, tries to argue but is too visibly drunk, while the driver then argues with the traffic warden about being allowed into the village. There's been no suggestion that the driver had been drinking, so apparently it was just the other Santas that were clearly pissed. The driver apparently was perfectly sober. Right. So one woman said, well, that was eventful. An army tank. Yes, an actual army tank driven by several... Alex, can I just... I think there's an episode title. I think an army tank driven by several inebriated Santas is a fantastic episode title.
You know, as you were doing this story, my mind was whirring, thinking, God, we haven't had an episode title yet. Because, you always have to think of both of us, Rob, we always have to think on that extra level about the actual podcast itself. And it's not even a question, Rob. Should it be the episode title? You know that has to be the episode title. Yes. And what a great way to start 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. So another woman said, I've seen it all now. A tank being driven by several Santas tried to drive into Angarek, got wedged and blocked the entrance to the village.
Sorry, I'm still confused. When stories are so confusing, you sort of feel so disorientated, you don't even ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Why are three people dressed up in Santa outfits doing a military reenactment during the festive period?
I don't think that this was part of the enactment, Alex. I think they were just they enjoy their military reenactment and thought this would be something for the kids. I mean, so Lisa Chard, who filmed the Santas and their tank in St. Ives, said there was a group of Santas in the tank and they were all very friendly and full of Christmas joy. They allowed people to take photos and let kids have a look inside. Everyone loved it. They were lovely chaps. And had lots of time for the kids. So I'm assuming this is an annual thing they do.
Right.
Okay. Santas and tanks. Look, I'm going to leave that story there to move on.
I just think they were lucky they weren't in like a jet aircraft, because that would have ended very differently. You don't want to be pissed when flying, Rob.
No, that is true. By the way, the police were called, but I think they just moved them along, really. My second story is from news.com.au. So obviously this is Australia. It is by Jasmine Kazlukas from the 31st of December. And the headline is, disgusting. Mum's car covered in poo after heated parking dispute.
Who doesn't like a bit of fecal vandalism, which is a great album title?
It really is, yeah. I mean, that is clearly one of fecal matters, let's be honest.
It may be.
Yeah. So, a woman has captured the unbelievable moment an irate woman pours a bucket of dog poo mixed with boiling water over her parked car. I mean, dog poo by itself is disgusting, but I think the fact that it's been heated up and with hot water, that must have absolutely reeked.
Yeah.
So Natalie Mayers had been approaching her car during a work break when she claimed she saw a woman staring into her vehicle's windows. So she whipped out her phone to film. The 39-year-old who lives in Toowoomba, Queensland, had no idea that what was happening. But when she got closer, she saw the unthinkable. Her car was covered in dog poo mixed with boiling water. The woman, who was believed to live near to Natalie, parked her car, admitted to the bizarre act, stating in the video that it's because she didn't like people parking in front of her home.
Can I just say on that though? But there was, one thing that I think you're missing, Rob, is there was consideration by the, let's call it the vandal.
Yeah.
Because she mixed the boiling water with, she mixed the dog shit, Rob, with boiling water. And of course that boiling water would have presumably killed off any impurities and bacteria, rendering it harmless.
I don't think she was looking at it quite like that. Do you not
drink it, Rob?
Alex, just imagine if you'd not accidentally, but intentionally parked your car outside your neighbour's house, not blocking their drive, but just being, visible to them. And the way they've reacted to this is they've covered your car in dog shit mixed with hot water.
Yeah, it would make neighbourly interactions difficult in the future. I think I would also be a bit concerned about taking it to the car wash, because I don't know, do they really want to be? I know they're paid to do a job, but do they really want to be, what's the word? Jet cleaning,
jet washing, yeah,
shit off your car, shit off your car.
I think you'd also have to,
because it will spray, Rob.
Yeah, you'd also have to explain why your car was covered in shit. I mean, you can't. I feel you have to say something if you're going to, especially if it's a hand car wash.
The neighbour really has hit the nuclear button there, Rob. When we talk about things escalating quickly, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this was an ongoing dispute. Maybe there have been a sequence of steps leading up to this point. maybe it's not just gone from 0 to, right, I'm mixing dog shit with boiling hot water and pouring it over your car. I would hope there were intervening steps in between.
Yeah, you'd hope so. So as Natalie goes on to say, I've never seen her or met this woman in my life. I have no idea who she is. It's my first day back from maternity leave. I was in a rush to get to work, and my driver's seat was not directly outside her gate. She has a sign there telling people not to park here, but I did not see it. Everything I did was totally legal. I didn't park in a driveway or do anything I wasn't meant to do. The sign should have said, "Do not park here, otherwise you'll get. Otherwise, I will pour your kind
boiling dog shit on your car."
Yeah, good point. I was going to my car when I noticed someone was looking in my car window. I pulled out my camera and started filming, and this lady walked back up her driveway. She came back out carrying a big bucket and poured what I thought was boiling water over my car. I could still see the steam. Natalie claims that the water's heat caused her windshield to crack, whilst it also created a dent in the roof and affected her car alarm.
Sorry. Boiling water caused a dent in her roof.
Yeah, I don't.
Is this car made out of chocolate? What are you talking about?
I don't know. Is the honest? I don't know how that's happened. Natty
that's
says,
just her taking the piss, and now she's blaming it at any scratches on the car. Yeah, that was the boiling.
That was shit. Yeah, that was definitely shit
concoction.
Natalie said that the Poobrew was all over her car and smelled terrible.
Right, there's the word I've been looking at. Poobrew, that is excellent.
Yeah,
that journalist. What paper? That's the Australian paper, isn't it?
This is what Natalie said. The one who had the shit poured over her car. That was her. Oh right, that was her.
She called it the Poobrew. Well done. I mean that sounds really patronising, but that is a great term.
Yeah.
Poobrew.
And obviously the car smelled terrible. My car was a mess. I was in tears about it. I had no idea where she got all the poo from. I think she must have been collecting it. It smelled so bad.
Yep.
It's a good question. It's one that we need to ask. Where did she get so much dog shit at such a short notice?
Also, how does she know it's dog shit and not human shit? Like, did she have it tested in the lab, or is it? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I don't think she. I mean,
she's very specific. She says it's dog shit. How does she know it's dog shit?
But I don't know, Alex. If it was me, I want to believe it was dog shit, not human shit. I'd want to think that that woman hadn't been collecting her own fecal matter for a matter of weeks just for people who park their cars outside her house.
I feel like she could have been, Rob. I'll be honest.
Yeah, good point, Alex.
Okay, Rob, it is time for our listener story of the week. Even though you've already featured a listener story, but that's fine. We can. They're not rules, and even if they are, we can break them. We own the podcast. We own the rights. Rob, what is their listener story?
So, look, we started this as we began. It is from Kyber. There's one thing I forgot to say at the beginning. Kyber has also been taking some episode titles and making more AI images, which I will post on the Facebook page. So thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, can you post them to me as well, please? Yes.
I will do. Yeah, I'll do it after this because yeah, they're brilliant. So. Again, Kyber, I think you've gone above and beyond. So this is from the Canarian Weekly, which covers Gran Canaria.
I don't know how Kyber's doing this. I don't know. I like this is astonishing.
It is extraordinary. Don't get it. Yeah. But so
this is above and beyond. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is from the 12th. Oh no, hang on. It's the other way around. It's the American format. So this is from the 17th of December, 2022. I mean, what an episode title. Drunk priest blames communion wine for crashing into 5 parked cars.
Well, so this is your second story, Rob, about drunk driving in various forms.
Correct, yeah. So a priest in Spain who tested positive for drunk driving crashed into several parked cars and told police it must have been due to the communion wine he had drunk during a private Eucharist shortly beforehand.
Is that not? By the way, I like the phrase "private Eucharist," but isn't that quite possible? Isn't that quite possible? He had a bit too much. I mean, most priests I've met, C of E priests, they're always a bit tipsy.
Well, Alex, he was twice over the legal limit. So
okay, but,
unless he drank like half the bottle. Yeah, you're right, Alex. It was Christmas. He's allowed to enjoy himself.
It's a private Eucharist, Rob.
What's that mean? Was it?
I don't
just
know.
Him? One for me, one for Jesus. Anyway, so the accident happened last Saturday around 10:30 a.m. Alex, in Valencia. On a Saturday as well. It's not like it was on a Sunday, Alex. It was Saturday at 10:30 in the morning.
Rob, if I'm right, so the Eucharist is like a celebration of the Last Supper, right?
Yes.
So that is, you're right, it's him sitting there eating on his own. I don't know if there's any food there and just wine. A private Eucharist, like, you're right, what is that? You're right, that is what he means. He means I was having the Last Supper by myself, and I thought, I really need to get a lot of Jesus blood in me here.
he was drinking bread, and he had a breakfast of bread and wine, and that was it. It just seemed like the bread vastly outnumbered the slices of toast.
I suspect he's been up all night, Rob. This is what I suspect.
Yeah. But praising the Lord, of course.
Of course.
So it happened about 10:30 a.m. in Valencia, and the police report states that the priest was driving in a reckless manner, hit one parked car, and then clipped others before crashing to another beside the door to an underground garage. Apparently, he was upset when he got out of his Audi and realised that he caused so much damage to a total of 5 vehicles.
I thought he was going to be really upset that he caused damage to his Audi.
It might well be that. However, witnesses told the local police that the priest had been driving more than 80 kilometres an hour and was talking his mobile phone when the collision happened.
So, drunk, breaking the speed limit on the mobile phone. Who was he calling? What was it about? Was he on his way to another private Eucharist?
I think he was on the way to AA, I believe. No, that's not true. At the time, several vehicles were waiting at a red light, at a junction, which, according to them, the police had swerved to avoid hitting, which is when he crashed into the other cars which were parked. In a conflicting statement, the police told them he'd swerved to avoid hitting the car in front when its driver slammed on the brakes. When he realised that the light was red and that he must have failed. Oh God, there's no punctuation in the sentence. When he realised that the lights were red, they must have failed the breathalyzer test because he had drunk some communion wine a short time beforehand. He is also said to have been in a rush to get to his church because he was late for mass.
Well, there you go. I bet he was forgiven for this, Rob, because he is a priest, and in my experience, they can get away with quite a lot if we look at it historically.
True, very true. It does say that a police investigation into the incident is currently underway.
Right. Yeah. Well, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Maybe he can have his own private confessional, and that way he can
absolve himself for all those sins.
So we're going to be back in a week's time with episode 39 of our LA podcast, an extra jab episode, which, as I said earlier, exclusive to Patreon, patreon.com/LA podcast extra. Go there, sign up. It's £1 a month. You get access to all those episodes and future ones. Please do that. And then a week after that, we're going to be back with the next episode of this podcast, which will be what,
379.
Rob? 379 of the regular LA. And of course, we're on our website, LAPodcast.net. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LAPodcast. We're on Twitter @LAPodcast. We're on Spotify. We're all those places. And if you want to submit us a story and be featured on this podcast, send it to LAPodcast.net @gmail.com. That's LAPodcast.net @gmail.com. We're going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for listening. God bless.
And keep it local.